Yeah, I don't know. I started out helping them on the racetrack, and then as guys kept retiring, more people came in. But the cool thing back in those was the guys that were on it then were mostly ranchers, and nowadays they're all business people. And I don't remember the year, when I got on the board, but like I say, I think it was right at the time when Ray Damaris resigned from the board, and I came on right about that time. And there's a lot of those guys that were on there then they're dead and gone. And but there's lots of pictures and memories, And I remember them talking about when they rebuilt or built the Parimutuel building and the betting windows and stuff, and how they didn't have any money, so they used nails. Anything they could find that they could recycle, they used. And it was right up to the day, I believe, of the races, the first races they had, that they got the windows built, so at least they had something that they could take money through and hand money back out. And I don't know what they had for betting machines. I'm sure they were basically obsolete compared to what they use nowadays, because I know they have better machines all the time, even later on, made it faster, basically, so you could handle more money faster, take in more for what they call the handle. And the racing's changed a lot too. Back then, the horses weren't trained as well. I don't think that the trainers handled them different back in the old days, more so than what they do now. Most of the horses nowadays have been at the gate. They're required. They have to be at the gate, go through the gate several times before they can even run them. But I think they do a lot more hands-on training now, and they're a better quality of horse, I believe, too. They're up here. They're not as like they were in the old days. Because I remember they had a horse. I can't remember what his name was. For one thing, I keep thinking his name was Foggy Thong, but for some reason that sticks in my mind. But they couldn't get the horse. Anytime they put the jockey on him, which was in the paddock, the horse would flip over and refuse to come out on the track. So I remember Art throwing a backhand loop on that horse, and Bud Simonis was the head steward, and he said, "I want you to take that horse out on the track." And the horse flopped over. The jockey jumped off during the process. When he jumped up, Art backhanded him and dallied up and drug him out of the paddock and out onto the track. And of course the horse was sitting back and fighting and choking. And when it was all done, the horse came to his horse. They threw the jockey on, and the horse never did it again, because he'd been getting away with it, for who knows how many years at every race meet that they had around the state. And it pretty well cured that horse flipping over in the paddock like he did. And the horse could run. That's the worst thing, because every time if they had to scratch him, why, he didn't get to run at all. And that took away from the bettors' money and our end of it making any money on it too. So, but then times had changed, after that. All those old guys retired and died off, and it wasn't quite the same. Wasn't much fun, I don't think, as like nowadays. Everybody said, well, it's just not, they don't enjoy it as much. They cut out basically all the fun end of it, the socializing and that part of it, because times have changed, and that's not supposed to be proper. You know, a lot of stuff that we used to do to enjoy ourselves. It wasn't a paying deal, so you had to do something to make it fun, and it was a hell of a lot of work. That's and especially when the two were separate, because you had to set the rail up as soon as the rodeo performance was over for the race, you know, the following nights. And so as soon as the rodeo was over, you had to get out and set the rail up, and then you had to take everything back down for Sunday's performance. And I mean, it was just a perpetual work deal from the start to the finish. You was up 24/7 for several days just to put the rodeo on, and the races you know, when they come used to be, you know, till we split it up. Once we split it up, that gave us a week or two in between, to where you had time to recuperate, and plus it made separate pay periods for the public, so that there was more money in the public's hand to take down there and bet. And so that raised the handle back up, which made it a little more profitable for the association. They shortened the arena. I can't remember how many years ago that was, from the football field that it used to be, because the high school played football there. And I remember after we shortened the arena, which I can't remember how many feet we took off of it, but it shortened it up quite a bit. Actually brought it in compliance with the grandstand instead of way bigger than the grandstand. And that helped some for the spectator, because it brought all the action closer to them. Plus we switched ends. The roping end used to be on the north end, and we switched it to the south end, because most everybody is right-handed and everything seems to circle to the left, like the team roping, and in the calf roping almost everybody's right-handed. So when they flank and tie something, they're facing towards the crowd where they can actually see what's going on instead of the contestants' back. And it just made it better for the spectator to see what was going on. Where in the way it was set up the old way, everything was going away from the grandstands. All the people that used to go knew what was going on. They just weren't given the chance to see it, you know. Yeah. They were looking at the back of the cowboy in the timed event deals. So they switched ends, which that helped some, and it brought stuff towards the grandstand or facing the grandstands. And plus it brought the bucking horses closer to the crowd, because they moved everything in. Plus we put in bleachers. We built bleachers. They were portable. They had axles under them, so the high school could take them and use them for their sports down at the high school and stuff. So they used them a lot. And then later on, why they built the same kind of deal, had to improve on them, but then they started moving around with the equipment down there, and that wasn't the best deal. It when it gets kind of in a hurry, they start ramming and jamming, and that starts breaking stuff. So, but at least it was more seating after the old stands went over the bucking chutes and stuff. Plus, that's about the time when they started doing all the horse racing. They got rid of all of that stuff, so you could see past the old seating above the bucking chutes. And also the bleachers were so much higher back in the old days, the old wood ones, that you couldn't see the backside of the track as the horses went around. And even now it's kind of blocked, like your sponsorship on your bucking chutes, and then the announcer stand with the sponsorship up there, it's blocked a little. Plus we have a lot of stuff that we used to put on the infield. And then we ended up building crow's nests on the backside kind of in what they call the bee barn area. And they used to put spotters in those with cameras, and they would keep track of the race as it come around to the backside, because from the grandstand, and if you was over there watching the race for the officials, they couldn't see it very good on the backside, so they used those crow's nests that we built, their towers, to video it and watch from those towers. And I don't know if they still use those towers or not, because the video stuff they have now is so much better. Yeah. I mean, they film the whole entire race now, and they show it on the TV monitors. So they don't miss much now compared to the old days. And there was a lot of cheating went on in the old days. That was just part of the horse racing deal. And I can remember in the old days too, the races, usually during the meet, once or twice during the meet, when we get around to the backside, like the 660 now, I believe it is, where the gate was on the backside, we would always dismount the jockeys and they would search them for what they call a bug. It's a shocker that you put in the palm of your hand so you can speed your horse up, and they're illegal. Sometimes you catch them with a bug, and it was just a different group, kind of. I haven't seen them dismount those riders and search them forever, and maybe they can't now. Maybe there's some special law that says they can't, but I would assume they could. And there was a lot of times when you were what they call backtracking, coming around towards the finish wire after the race, and either direction you might find one laying on the track. So one of those guys had one and he got rid of it because they figured somebody was going to look for it, so they drop it. And unless you're right there to see them do it, you don't know who did it. So. Yeah, back to the rodeo end of it. Like I said, I picked up for a contractor for about 30 years out of Condon. And not just him, but other contractors too. And finally I said enough was enough. It's as you get older, it starts wearing on you, and I was pretty lucky, never had nothing real serious happen to me. Made some awfully good horses doing it. And that's another thing that we used to talk about. If you're out riding for the races and those loose horses that get away, if you're mounted as best you can be, and which most of the guys nowadays aren't mounted because their horses aren't in shape and they're not used to catching loose horses like rodeo picking up is. So it's completely strange to them. So they're not quite as efficient or effective, because of the way they're mounted. And it helps if you're mounted, and you have to have several horses that can do the job, not just one, because you make one lap around that as fast as you can go, you're out of horsepower, and a lot of those guys have to ride that same horse the rest of the night, so that's not good. And it takes several horses, and they have to be really fit to do it. And a lot of those guys, where they're not doing it like I was doing it every weekend rodeo, and so mine stayed fit. And most other people volunteering, they did this once a year. So their horse wasn't going to be in any kind of shape. Now back in the old days when they were ranching, they stayed in good shape because they actually used them day to day for work. So they were in pretty good shape, but quite a bit of difference between then and now. Yeah, we did all kinds of weird stuff. Pat McCabe and I one night after I think it was the pre-race barbecue, the gal that was doing the photo finish back when it had 2 finish wires, and she wanted 5 gallons of water in each tower for her film development. And Pat guaranteed her that we would have that water in the tower by the next day. And so we got partying, and it was late that night, and finally got kind of done, and everybody's leaving the party and stuff. And Pat goes, "Gosh," he said, "we got to get that water down there." He said, "I promised her we'd get it in the tower." And we said, "Okay." So we loaded up a bunch of us, and we'd been drinking, and we had us a designated driver, and so down there we went, and drinking all the way, and we got down there, and so we got a bucket, and back then you had to climb up the ladder, even on top of the grandstand. And so he climbed up the ladder, which wasn't too bad because it was about maybe 10 feet from the top of the seating there till you got out on the roof. Then you walked up to the platform out towards the front on top of the announcer stand. So at least there you kind of had something to walk on. The other one, you had to go up the ladder all the way up till you got into the stand. But we got the water to the one stand, so then we spilled most of it trying to get it into the further one down that had the ladder. And by the time we got it up there, we didn't have enough water for the 5 gallons. So what we did, we figured out how many cups it took for 5 gallons of water. And so at each place, we took these empty beer cups that we'd had from the party, and we'd pour water in them, and we filled them up and had them sitting in there, and it about filled up the whole stand, you know. She didn't say how to leave it, just she wanted 5 gallons. And so we thought, well, that'd be tee-hee on her, you know. The next evening, and we asked her how her photos came out, and she said, well, she laughed. She said, well, I really appreciate you guys putting the water up there, but she said you could have left it in one container. And we said, well, you know, you said 5 gallons, you didn't specify the container, and she laughed. She thought it was pretty humorous herself, and it didn't ruin any of her pictures, so must not have been too terrible. And just goofy stuff that we pulled, you know, during the races, fun stuff. It's just, and she's also the same gal that on the Saturday night, after the last race, we had a foot race from down in front of the paddock to the photo finish wire, and she had to wear a pair of shorts, and she did. She didn't win the race, but I mean, it was back in those days, everybody participated in stuff and had fun. And she was a state hired gal, and nowadays it's pretty strict, quiet, down to business. There's nobody wanting to have fun, you know. It's more like a job. It's not nearly as much fun as it used to be, because you had to make it fun. I mean, it was a lot of work, and by the end of the race meet, you was done, plumb done. And especially back in the days when we had the rodeo and races together. I mean, there was just several days there where that's all you did. You never slept at night. I mean, you was working, getting ready for the next day, doing something, or you was screwing off, entertaining, doing something. But it was fun. Right the day before the races, I can't remember what year, but we had a thunderstorm. The grandstand we had it painted, but I don't remember how many years before this deal took place, the thunderstorm. But the night before the evening before the races, that day before and that evening, there was a thunderstorm came, and it started hailing, and it literally stripped the paint off the grandstand. Stripped it right off, and it was just scattered all over the pavement and running in the water. The hail hit so hard, so everybody was inside. We'd been down there working, getting the track ready, It actually flooded the track. We had to dig trenches across the track to drain it and run it to pits on the infield as stilling pools for it. And then later that evening and the next day, we hauled material back onto the track and had to work it back in so that it didn't have soft spots in it, and pack it. And I mean, it was a lot of work to get it ready, but we run on it. And the track was good. But it also flooded the Parimutuel building because it's so flat. And the water came into the Parimutuel, and we started, I don't remember how many of us was down there working, but we started taking all the stuff that usually set on the floor and picking it up and setting it on the counters where usually the tote machines set for the bedding. And hell, we had it stacked up, 4 feet high on those counters were actually, I said, they're going to fall down because they're not made to, a tote machine's pretty heavy, but we had it, who knows how many times heavier than a tote machine. And that particular picture that I have there of me in a tub, it's kind of dry there, but you can see the footprints where people were walking in the water, and back behind it you can see the dark stuff, and that's all water back behind that thing. And it took that night and the next day, that water went down, finally receded. But if it had rained again, I know we wouldn't, there's no way we could have run the races. And thankfully, we only had just a bad thunderstorm and hail for that one night. And plus, it gave us a chance to repaint the grandstand because it was stripped right down pretty much to bare metal. All they had to do is pressure wash it and repaint it. And back in the good old days. And as you can see, there's a toddy in my hand, and Diane said, well, that's probably the first one. And I said, oh yeah, I'm sure it is, of the night. No, we had a lot of fun, even though it was a lot of work. It's a kind of a turnaround deal. Everybody benefits from it if it goes off successfully. And it's worth the work to have it every year. And it's a social event, basically, for Prineville. People have reunions and everything, basically, kind of around that. And the Stahansik group used to bring in busloads of people from the Portland area and over in the valley to come over here and be part of the roundup. And she'd put on the events there at her house, and stuff. And I don't know if she still does that. I have no idea if she does. Yeah, it's quite a deal. And then like Susie now, where she's the sponsor, basically for the rodeo grounds and stuff, and the roundup. So yeah, it's different. It's not like it was back years ago. But I think it's for the better, probably. I know the crowds are way bigger now. And horse racing's kind of slowed up. Back when they had, I think it was what was the horse that out of California that wasn't American Pharoah? I can't remember what horse it was, but there was a horse that run and win several races, and they thought maybe he'd win the Triple Crown. He didn't. But it kind of brought a new life back to horse racing. Just the fact that there was a chance that horse could win 3 of them. And that kind of brought more people back into the horse racing. But the social end of it is why people, I think, go down there to socialize and have fun.